All right, so we are recording. We are kind of semi-live here. All right, we have Drew Tucker with us today. Welcome, Drew. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
How's it
Oh,
going?
no problem.
So
Oh, swell.
awesome. Where are you located right now as we speak?
I'm located in Olympia, Washington.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Okay.
West Coast, a little south of Seattle.
Nice, nice. How long have you been there?
I think 3 years, right? Like, I think 3 years. It's been about.
Okay.
I was up here in the '90s, and then I moved to the Midwest again because that's originally where I'm from. And then
Nice.
recently came back here
Awesome.
just for the fires.
Just for the fires. Well, we hope
Yeah.
you don't get in the path or the way of the fires. We wish to
Oh yeah.
have you with us for the very long time into the future. And we also appreciate you being a very solid part of the Magic community going way back to when Magic came around in the 90s.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
when I started Magic, uh, the art was what drew me in. I specifically remember a Fallen Empires card. I believe it was by Ron Spencer, The Order of the Ebon Hand. It was the
Oh,
first card I saw. That this knight with a cleaver with fire coming up in the background, and I was enthralled, mesmerized,
cool.
totally blown away. That was what 12, 13 years old. Barely a teenager, coming across
Yeah.
this really cool image on a card. Didn't know what the game was about. Didn't know what the card did. And when I saw the art, I was like, "Wow, this art is just stunning!" Right? So the art in Magic is, from my experience, has a very big factor on drawing in collectors, players, participants, whatever you want to call them. And thanks to you guys as the artists, you make that happen. You connect the hemispheres of the brain, I want to say, because one, we visually interpret data, and then with the math calculations and the language in the card, we
Yeah.
combine it all into this sphere of enjoyment and the game that we call Magic. So I want to thank you for that, being a part of that. And back, we have cards from, when was it? Probably, I didn't see a whole lot of unlimited cards. I saw more of the dark. You were in
Oh,
a lot of those sets, right? So you had like
yeah.
Cave
Yeah.
People, Dust to Dust. You did a lot of those art. And I mean, I have a list that I wrote down here just to count the cards, but I had to stop after 10. So that was just for the old school art.
Yeah. I think I worked pretty heavy for them until like Time Spiral, I think it was. Like, well, it was kind of the last stuff.
And you did a lot of art after, even up through the 90s, through the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, I mean, Time Spiral ended, when was that? Early 2000s, mid 2000s, somewhere
Oh,
around there.
maybe. Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, yeah, I think it was in the 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of the legacy artists did not continue down that path. I mean,
No, no.
for example, one artist that I've interviewed in the past mentioned that he disengaged with Wizards. He wasn't happy with his experience. Now, we would love to hear about your path as an artist with Wizards, and or your general experience, whatever you want to share with us.
Oh, I've always had really good. I've always had really good time with Wizards. I don't like, yeah. Um, yeah, they've always treated me really well. Um, yeah, like the artwork started going in a different direction than my stuff was going, so it was kind of a natural evolution or de-evolution. I don't know what to call it, but like, yeah, Wizards is an awesome company to work for. Those guys are like great. Um, so yeah, like I don't think I was as close as some of the other people, you know. Um, Yeah, though I guess I went to school with everybody. It's really weird. Um, but yeah, like I was kind of always a hermit, but like Wizards has always been awesome too. Um, yeah, yeah, I have nothing weird, no like real weird stories about like anything. Like yeah, yeah, they've always been like pretty solid on.
So how was it like? How was this maiden voyage of Magic the Gathering with Wizards? You know, who was involved when you started? Did you see Richard
Wow,
Garfield
yeah.
a lot? That kind of stuff, you know, from the very
I've never met like okay, I didn't meet anybody until like maybe like Jesper, right? Like Jesper was my art director
yes.
for many years, right? I never met him until like maybe 6 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So like yeah, like I was totally this so how I got in, right? Like I was living in Seattle, going to Cornish College of the Arts for like illustration. Prior to that, I'm from the Midwest. Just to go, like I'm from the Midwest, like Southern Illinois, and I started in graphic design, and then that quite wasn't my boat, and then I kind of fine arted around for a bit, right? And then I ended up in Seattle, um, and getting my school on up there. And Sandra Everingham was in one of my watercolor classes that I was taking.
Wow.
And she had came
Yes.
up and like, oh yeah, well, you know, we've got this game we're making where we're looking for illustrators. Um, you know, like would you put together a portfolio? And so I got a portfolio together. I gave it over to Sandra. Sandra brought it to Jasper's. And then that's exactly how I started working. And like I really didn't have much contact with anybody. It was real strange. So I think I owe so much to like Sandra, and I owe like tons to like Jesper for just even seeing something into my like paintings and the work I was doing, because it's not, especially at that point in time, it wasn't 100% like, it's not like traditional fantasy, right? I think that's fair to say. Um, so I so lucked out. And then, you know, when I finally graduated from Cornish, I moved back to the Midwest for a couple of years. And then I moved to New York for a couple of years, and then I moved back to the Midwest, then back up to here. So like I thoroughly lucked out. You know, I guess I was doing something that, you know, because Jesper wanted like all these different voices coming in, and mine were more like dealing, I guess dealing like on an emotional level. It
Hmm.
sounds like flaky when I say it out loud, but it kind of like it kind of is. You know, and they like that shtick, I guess. Uh, so yeah, I always felt like I just really lucked out and lucked into the whole bit. Um, I still feel really lucky about it. Kind of cool. But yeah, like I don't know if that even answered your question. But
No, that's a great window into the past, and I think, you know, everyone's curious, you know, and this goes back to the times of Duelist, Scry
yeah,
magazines, because those were like right when the internet was being invented. You know, the
oh
traditional
yeah,
way of getting information around was through magazines or newspapers, whatever printed
yeah.
material, right? And
Oh yeah,
I would read about you guys, the artists, when there were articles coming up and the interviews and the information that people could get on you guys, but it was still like this very like, you know, we're in this fantasy, semi-fantasy universe of Magic, but the artists had such a great impact, yet we never got to meet them, right? Because
no,
like I was living over in Northern Europe when I was growing up, and
oh
so
no,
yeah, and so when I, going through do list, there was a do list, I think, in the mid 90s, yeah, around 95, 96, that published the addresses on
Yeah,
artists where you could send cards to and they would sign them.
yeah, I
And
remember that.
and
Yeah.
that was phenomenal. That allowed Magic players, and we were young, to connect with the real deal, which were you guys. And yes, we could get them autographed. Yes, autographs were not intended to add value to the cards like they do today.
Oh yeah.
And but it was just this personal touch where we got to see more of the creators of the art, and we got to have it even more personalized with whatever you guys are, the artists would sign the cards by or attach with the cards. And I have shared on the Facebook group page previously, the only one I sent cards to back in the mid 90s was an artist like Quentin Hoover.
Oh,
And
he was one.
yeah, and I didn't know what his signature looked like. I just knew that a lot of the cards I used, and so those were cards I had, and so
Yeah.
I shipped them off, and I didn't know if I was ever going to get them back. I didn't.
Oh
It
yeah.
was
Like
very nerve wracking because I'm young.
you
I'm
could
like,
still.
so
Yeah, it's still kind of like crazy though. Like when people, I love when people send cards. And yeah, I really liked back then too. That was like for like illustration, kind of a different thing because usually illustration you're like amazingly quiet. You put a painting out, or you put it out in illustration, and that's that.
that's that.
And there's no, there might be like a little column that says your name somewhere in the magazine, but
Yeah,
there's no interaction. And so like
exactly.
that people were able to send us stuff was really cool. Um, and yeah, I think sending cards is probably still really nerve wracking because like all of my cards are like these old, or like
Yes.
old things, and like I would hate to send them out. Like I would be really
Yeah,
afraid, kind
yeah,
of.
yeah.
But yeah, I get cards all the time. I really like it though. It's neat. It's a really interesting community, and like the closeness and how everybody goes is like really cool. Um, yeah, yeah, it just kind of like floored.
Yeah, so that is really something that just fascinates me. It's just the whole impact that you guys had, and how you came to be. So when you started, so you told us how you started with Wizards. Now, did you ever meet Richard Garfield?
No,
No.
no, I'm not that Richard.
Okay.
No. I met Amy Weber, right? She was in school with me as well, and like we've been friends for a while.
Nice. Okay.
And I met like Randy Galagos,
Yes.
Jesper years, only years ago. Like
Yes.
but Jesper, um, I knew Sandra, of course, from early on, and
Right.
Billy Burrows, who's up here, or Barrows. Um, but like honestly, like most of everyone that I know at this point, I met like maybe 5 years ago. It's so
Wow.
weird. And being an
That.
illustrator is weird because like yeah, like you just get like a phone call or an email telling you. I had worked for in conjunction with Wizards, of course. I was working with White Wolf because this just carries on to that portfolio thing. And this part of this story might be a lie, so you can like, if it is, I apologize to anybody. But I don't think it is. But like when I gave Sandra my portfolio, right, I made in school, and she gave it to Jesper. Jesper went to, I think it was like Gen Con, and was showing my portfolio around, and somebody at White Wolf got it and never gave it back. And so I
Oh
started
wow.
with White Wolf as well for like years.
Yes.
Um, and all of that is from them. But I like at that point in time, Richard Thomas was the art director, and like Aileen Miles were the head art directors over at White Wolf. And I didn't meet Richard until maybe like 6 years ago as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like so, like I either it might be like I'm a hermit. It could be like partially that, but like yeah, like it's you have these really weird relationships where you're talking with people, and like even on a comforting like level, and but you'll never see them. It's so strange.
So,
Uh,
Wizards never had a party at the end of the month where you guys would sit down for a casual Friday lunch or something where you'd gather. I mean,
no, well,
eh,
they probably did. They probably had one, but like I was doing something else, and they were doing something else.
okay, okay,
I mean, in the beginning, like in the '90s, I did go on like a couple of road trips to like the comic book stores to hawk the game, right? With like I think like Anson and I were together on one. I can't say, but yeah, like the '90s, that's a blur. Um, uh, yeah, but yeah, like I never went to like some picnic function.
no, okay,
Um,
but it's just funny because the
yeah,
card game is called Magic: The Gathering, whereas the artists,
well, much
many
of
of
my
them never
I
gathered,
just
and
kept
you,
to myself. Like,
yeah. So
yeah,
it's just funny. It's just funny. I guess it's a paradox to a
it's
certain extent.
weird. I think the gathering happened like more so now, like especially after Jeff Mingus's book, though the 25th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
They had that out, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that like got a lot of people together in
Oh.
the weirdest way.
So it felt like an anniversary more than
Yeah,
anything.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it most definitely was.
Yeah. Well, you know what's really great? I mean, either way, whatever Wizards did or didn't do with you guys,
No, they were awesome.
for us, what's really important is the art on the card, anyways.
Yeah.
And so we're happy that you were able to contribute to the Magic community for that. So,
Yeah, no, thank you. That's
um, and so so you said you did art up till Time Shifted. So are you still with Wizards? Part of Wizards? How's that work?
I talked to him. I talked to
Okay,
him a
you
lot.
talked to him.
Talked to the other art directors and stuff.
So is it because and this is quite common, but the style of the '90s art, which what you described as emotional, partly, is what old school Magic players like as myself grew up with. The art is created with a sort of hand, soul, and mind combined on the canvas or the area that you guys use to create what we call the classic arts
Yeah.
visual.
Well, I
So
think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
no. So all I was gonna say was, that style versus today's art style, which is digital.
There's a
It's
lot of like handwork. There's a
yes.
lot of people doing handwork today. So like, um, yeah, there's a huge amount of handwork going on in like Wizards work at the moment. There is a lot of digital too, but there's a lot of realist painters and just like amazing like hand painters work. And oh shoot, Seb's digital, but Kieran has just put out a couple of like newer ones I think that are hand. Kieran Yanner and like Howard Lyon, right? He's all hand. Randy Galagos is still doing hand work. So is like Mark Poole. Those are some older names, right?
Yes.
But some of the newer guys too, like Nils, right? I think Nils is Nils Hobbs. I probably said his name
Yes.
wrong.
Yes.
But he's hand. There's a lot of guys in there.
Yes.
And girls now or women.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah, like, so it's not all like digital, but like I think the difference between like classic and modern, right? If we want to like think about this, is in the '90s, right? When all this came out, none of it existed. Not like not an ounce of it. And so like for the game, the storyline wasn't there. all the precedents that you have to use, none of it was there. It was all being invented. So, you have this, all that artwork that was made, and we weren't the best artists either, I don't think. Like, I mean, the artwork's cool and they're all great, but like, yeah, and what I do now to like what I did back when I was 20, so much better, right? Yeah, like, and I think some of that has to do with like art education. Like all of my instructors were like abstract artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they all came out of the 50s, and the 50s were rejecting the years before, and so and then now you have like now where a lot of the teaching is done by I guess like artists like me at some point. Because I'm like 52, yeah, which is messed up. But like, and I taught for a while too, and so like when I was teaching, I realized like all these things that I had no freaking clue about. You know, I felt like that had to go into like the teaching, so I had to like kind of relearn to do it. And I think that's a direct relationship to kind of like repelling against like abstract and stuff like that kind of teaching where like art is art for art's sake, right? Which is like just weird to say because like I'm probably impressionistic or something like that, so like really close to abstract.
Well, and that's fine because I think your style, just like the colors of the rainbow, however way you want to say that, you guys, Jesper put everyone's little flavor into this spice cabinet, and
Yeah,
it all came together. I mean, yours has a little of the like emotional mystery to the art because it's not clearly defined, but you have the colors merging together,
yeah,
so I can see that.
yeah,
And but that's the style of art that drew us in from the beginning, at least us legacy players. uh
yeah,
and when like fifth edition, sixth edition came out, where the card font and the vibrancy of the colors improved, and they started adding in John Avon's like digital art. People were
yeah.
getting turned off by this because it was like, this is becoming like this like cartoonish uh taste to the spice cabinet that we were used to. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, I disengaged from Magic as many others did back in the late 90s when all
Yeah.
of that started to come out. And then they started foiling the cards, making them shiny and all that. And
Oh, shiny is
yeah.
awesome.
Well, and it is, but for us that were used to the
Yeah.
classic art, we got that flavor, and it wasn't a pleasant taste in our mouths of the illustrations for our
Yeah.
visual enjoyment like it was with the original art that you guys had been doing.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like, but in like I don't know, it's not like defense or anything like that, but I think like yeah, what was happening was like I said before, it's like we were like all that early artwork was just inventing what we had, and then like about the time and I love John Avon, by the way, his stuff is like awesome. But like once that came and like the digital art came more, it's kind of like in the 70s, everybody owned a CB radio, and but nobody really. There was like 5 people that used it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like that because like like digital was the big thing. It's
Yes.
everybody just like figured out that they could actually paint,
Yes.
make stuff in like Photoshop and everything, and so that like really took hold. And part of it was so new it didn't have a voice. But like if you look at like Seb's stuff, right? Like and he's digital, but
Yes.
like there's such a physicality, and he figured out how to work the machine to have that voice like
Yes.
like coming out of his hands.
Yes. Yes.
Um, you know, so I think like that middle moment, I think that's all that was like everybody going like, oh man, here's a new paintbrush, and that's why so much of that artwork at that point kind of looked the same, because like you know, it was there, but they hadn't figured out how to do
I,
the
I
film.
and I think it was just a contrast, a shift from the
Yeah,
classic to the modern technique that was like we never bridged the gap. It was like it went from night to day.
yeah.
And you know, again, this is my personal opinion, which I saw on some of my fellow players at the time as well, was that we were kind of like just thrown off by that shift.
I could see
And
that.
and
Like,
and, and it took us years, at least myself, it took me years to accept the new art style. And today, I mean, I collect foils. Like I go back and I say, hey, this was a great time anyways, you know, I want to cherish it, and so I get the shiny ones and so forth.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to like. I think the foils are brilliant. Like, but there's a couple of I wish I had. Like, I wish I had. Oh, Psychotic Episode. I wish I had that in foil because it looks really freaking cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I had no idea what it was gonna do because I didn't know it was gonna be on foil. But like, you know, like all the light colors not printing or like letting that like silver through with that like kind of knowledge, that would be a great. Those would be a lot of fun to design and work in because you would use all that metal. And, I don't know.
Exactly.
Foils are exciting. Yeah, it's this other batch of like paint that you get to throw.
So
Um,
let me ask you this: if you did up to time shift, the time shifted had foils in there. When you were doing the art, did they tell you we're gonna foil version these?
no,
No.
no, it was a surprise.
Okay.
So like yeah, like I think Hungry Spriggan is a foil too. I know I have that one as a foil, and then like I said, Psychotic Episode, and I think they foiled. Oh, I forgot its name. Um, there's been like way too many cards.
They
Like,
have, yes.
oh, Deathbringer Liege. I think they did that in a foil, but it doesn't look as cool as like Psychotic Episode.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, they wouldn't tell you. Like I don't know if they tell you now, but like at that point, you know, you just get like, oh my god, it's foiled. You know, so it was like this surprise, which is still cool. I mean, like I don't know. Yeah, foil, right?
So with the art style and whether it being foil or not, what do you remember, or could you describe and share with us, like how you would choose the themes? Would there
Oh
be a
yeah.
background story? Did they tell you, hey Drew, you're gonna make this card Dan Dan, uh you know, it's gonna be some Arabian Nights theme, but
Yeah.
you know, you need to put a fish in there. I don't know, I mean, how did you come up with that, for
Okay,
example?
like so by the time of like Arabian Nights, they actually told me, you know, we're thinking about Arabian Nights, right? Like, but like before, well, even that one, like what would happen because it's like it's right on the dawn of the internet, right? So we're not
Yes.
getting like a lot of emails, we're not getting any of that stuff. I'd get a phone call from Jesper, and he'd go, hey, you want to can you do some cards? You know, I got like 5, and then he'd just read off a list of titles, and then you picked from that. That was like the very, very beginning.
Wow.
And you'd be like, Dan, sure.
Yeah.
You know, or Holy Light, or whatever
Right,
it is.
right.
You know, that sounds kind of cool. Maybe I could find myself in that. And so yeah, they were just titles that they give you, and like sometimes they'd tell you like what color the card was going to be, but like not always. And then they would also come in like Flare, right? Yeah, it's Flare. Was originally supposed to be Wrath of God.
Oh.
Because like on the painting, I've sold it since then, but like on the painting, I'd write down the titles of the cards and it's got Wrath of God on it. So like sometimes they tell you one thing and they change it, like, you know, by the time it goes to print.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I'd get a phone call and he'd rattle off like a week's worth of words, and you just chose what sounded cool.
Would
That
you
was
go?
like,
Did you, for example, on the day and then, did you go back to the Arabian Night stories and be like, hey, let me find out what the
yeah, well,
storyline
I
is?
mean, like I've read Arabian Nights and stuff, and like, but yeah, I think I had to go back and go like, oh, what's a dan dan? They might have told me like, oh, it's a big, you know, it's big
Yes.
fish or like Leviathan or something in the
Okay.
water.
Yeah.
Um, and then you know, then you'd go from there, kind of. And for me, a lot of those cards, I would try to find. I'd probably do a lot of them different too at this point too. But like I would try to find like somehow if I could relate to it somehow, you know, like so like Dan, I used to go fishing with my grandfather in the Mississippi and like thinking about being on boats and like all that stuff under the water and all that. And so that's like kind of what was in my head. And then it was like, oh, it'd be really cool if the boats were empty.
And that was what I wanted to ask. I was like, why are the boats empty? Did the people jump out of them?
Oh, I
Or
figured the fish probably already got them and they're just coming back up
okay.
for later. But yeah, like so like for me, especially at that point in time, I was like a huge Hitchcock fan, Alfred Hitchcock, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Love the movies, love how he would tell a story and not tell a story at the same time. So it
Right.
allowed the viewer to like fill these gaps. Um, you know, and I think like in that like weird space that's not explained to a viewer, you put yourself in there. Um, yeah, so like you know like where like we have some films now that are like you know like I'm thinking of horror films I guess and they show everything you know it's like fairly gory
Yes.
even though that's starting to retract now.
Yes.
um you know there's nothing left for you to imagine, so it's not necessarily as scary. It's gross, but it's not like you know it
It's
doesn't
not
hold
frightening.
the
Yeah.
same way. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
yeah, and so like I would try to do my paintings, you know, in a way that left room for the viewer to kind of step in, try to show enough or imply enough, and then you know, so yeah, there's room for you to fill, and if you're filling it, that means you know you're also filling it here. So
Yes.
I mean, it's all bad theory, or like it's like hokum talk. Uh, but, but that's kind of what I would. That's not even kind of. That's what I was doing.
No, but that's
What
a great
I,
that's a great technique because you draw the viewer in, which is where you're successful at connecting your message or your art with
yeah,
with that viewer. So, you know, that's great. I mean, you definitely accomplished that, and you've been doing Wizards art for years. So, you know, just thank you for that, and good job on that. So, um, you know, did you do anything else outside the art scene for Wizards? Did they ask you about anything else? Like, what do you think the storyline should be or the theme in this set? Did they ever do anything like that?
oh, what was it? Shadowmoor. I did some stuff for concept art on Shadowmoor.
Okay.
Some of that, but not like Anthony Waters, right? Like the whole thing's built off of his like weird back in its head. But yeah, just a little bit, not too much.
So that was kind of like Shadowmoor, Lorwyn. That kind of was like this, kind of like the Hobbit
Yeah.
influence theme. I mean, what would you call it? Like, what was
Oh
the?
no, I would say that's kind of fair. I'd kind of like put it in. Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's. I don't want to say like high fantasy, but it's like it's like a darker fairyland or
Yes.
something like
Yes.
that. If that's the way to
Yes.
see.
You tell me.
Yeah, no, I think that's the way I'm saying
Okay.
it. That's how I looked at it, at least.
Nice, a dark fairyland, and there
Yeah,
were a lot of fairies and things in there. So right on.
yeah,
Um, What about like the printing, the card printer Cardamundi? What do you know about them? What do you remember? Nothing. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I was just curious because
Yeah,
you open the
no, no,
booster.
the words are in my head, and now, like,
Yeah.
I mean, my phone's on the side. I almost want to like go and like look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much on that.
That's okay because when we open up these booster packs, you see made by Cardamundi, printed in Belgium,
Oh yeah,
so
yeah, 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 yeah.
that's why that's always like enforced into me as a collector of cards back since the 90s. Shows opening packs. It says made in Belgium. So over
Wait,
and
so
over.
so that's gotta be like the printer then, right? Like,
So yeah, they were the printing press or the yeah,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I just made the picture apparently. Yeah, yeah, I didn't know that. Like, that makes sense though.
Yeah.
That like they'd leave their like logo and like their
Yeah,
information.
exactly. That's all I was used to seeing, so I had to ask you.
Yeah.
So how was it seeing Magic take off in the 90s? How was that?
Like I never like expected like, like what I'm like maybe I think I'm like 26, 25 when I started working with them, or maybe a little younger. Wait, yeah, it doesn't matter. But like to me, I was just really happy that like I was still in school, right?
Mm.
Um, and so I was just really excited that somebody wanted me to like make illustrations. That was
Right,
freaking.
right.
And then when you got them printed and you got them back, you were like, oh my god, it was like really real. Yeah, it was so weird because I didn't expect it to be what it is now. In fact, I didn't even have any like thoughts that way. I was like, oh, it's a cool game. I got like these cards, and now it's like it's freaking massive.
Yes.
Um, yeah, never saw any of it coming.
I would be surprised if Magic overtook chess someday to that
Ooh,
extent. I would
there,
not
well,
be
like
surprised.
I could like kind of see that, like, because yeah, like the thinking within both, right? Like, I mean, the math within Magic is like pretty freaking cool. Um, yeah, like I can't like there's like that traditional part of me that was like, what are you saying about chess? Uh, but
what
yeah, I mean, I
what
could
what
see
I
it
am
with
saying,
like
what
the
I am
level
saying,
of the thought process going. I could
yes,
see that.
the strategy with the art, I think combined overcome the 2 or 3 dimensional board of a
Yeah,
chessboard that's limited only to what you can see before you. Whereas
yeah,
Magic, like they said since the 90s, takes you to the shores of imagination, which
yeah.
could be infinite or whatever, right? And we've seen sets after sets after sets come out for the last 30 years. I can't even keep up. I'm
Oh, I know,
overwhelmed
it's
with
insane.
it's
It's really
insane.
cool.
There are 10,000, there are tens of thousands of cards. The combinations, the impact, the synergies, the whole thing. I don't have space in my brain for
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
comprehending.
I can remember reading about, like, well, trying to get like, like the computer or AI can like play chess and beat us now, right?
Yes, right.
But there's too many possibilities in Magic
Yes,
to get it to do it,
yes,
to get it to like, or to go fluently or
yes,
anything.
yes.
You know,
That's
so
true.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like there's so many different avenues in thinking and strategy that's in there. I can totally see where you're at with that when you
Yep.
say.
So when you saw Magic back in the 90s, they sent you these cards. How were
Yeah.
they sending you cards? I mean, did they just send you one print? Did they send you a box? What were they giving
Oh,
you?
they'd send us like we'd get like in the very beginning we'd get like you'd get a booster pack, you'd get like boxes, and then like
Okay.
I was foolish, of course. I think most of us were because I mean I can remember like getting them and opening them with my kid and going like looking at all the pictures, right? Because they're
Right.
freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I probably like shouldn't have done that apparently, but um, that's okay. But you know, and then they'd send us like 50 artist proofs per card, right?
Okay.
And part of that was, you know, with the idea I think Jesper had was that like, so we could kind of use them as like business cards, promotional, and give them to people.
Oh, right.
And like, yeah, so it was cool to get like those artist proofs and everything too, because then you could pass those around, and then later on at the games and stuff, right? Like people really
That's
like
right.
the proofs. And then, you know, now that you can like kind of play them too, that's like in some of the formats, like that's, you know, that's kind of awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So do you still have some? Did you keep them?
Oh
Did
yeah,
you
yeah,
use
yeah,
them?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I still have some. Well, a lot of like my alpha and beta has been like picked,
Okay.
which is too bad.
Yeah.
I think like I think I have like a plateau.
Okay.
A couple of them, because I'd like squirrel a couple of things back for
Good.
like my or whatever for later.
Good. Yep.
So I have, you know, I have like 2 or 3 of everything.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, and then I still have a lot of the artist proofs left too, which is weird. Some of those, like some of the older ones, of course, are dwindling away.
Well, this is a great question. I'm going to follow up with you. There's been speculation that Wizards of the Coast has a vault with lots of printings of the old goodies, the Lotuses, the Beta series, Alpha series. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, as a what do they call them? They're not the speculators, but the conspiracy theorists would think that Wizards has maybe, you know, 5,000 Black Lotuses that they've tucked away. What are your thoughts?
Say that again.
It
all went.
Let's try again. That's the internet.
Yeah.
Some conspiracy theorists think that it's possible the Wizards still have thousands or whatever hundreds amount of cards that are out of print, that they're sitting in some vault somewhere dark and deep, and who knows why, but they, you know, have them tucked away for some reason. What do you think?
I love a good conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theories are awesome. I don't know, but I mean, I could see it. I could see that like as a possibility, right? There's like sometimes you hear people that like you know, that had like shot off or took proof sheets.
Yes.
You know, and they didn't get to the artist. So like maybe, but
maybe.
like
but listen, so seven.
But you know, conspiracy theory. Right?
About 7 years ago in Zendikar, they threw out some reprints. I shouldn't say reprints, but some of the old cards that were out of print, like the dual lands, Volcanic Islands, stuff like that. And I forget what they call them, hidden treasures, whatever. They threw them in, and there was like one in every couple boxes.
Yeah, yeah.
Where did they come from?
Wait, are you saying those are like, we're talking about Zendikar at this point, right?
We're talking about Zendikar, but they did a throwback promotion by taking old cards from Revised and Unlimited and threw them in.
So are the actual old card?
Yes. There were dual lands. Yes, there were dual lands. I believe there was a Mox, if I'm not exaggerating. But there were
reprinted boxes.
I don't see. That's the conspiracy theorist here now would say, why they're not gonna put the plates, because they're supposed to have destroyed the plates from what the saying goes. So they didn't reprint them, but they had them in storage. So what else do they have in storage?
Wow.
See, that's the conspiracy. Are they sitting on $1 million gold pot that we are waiting for to be released, or are they purposely holding it back and will never release it on the market? We don't know.
I don't know. I think you should hope that they are. That would be so awesome, right?
Well, if they are, that's the thing with this whole reserve list.
Yeah.
Do you know about the reserve list, where they say that they won't print these cards again, and then the people collect them and they keep going up?
Yeah.
And
but then, you know, like that's like Disney releasing like a movie like, we're only going to do it for this month, and then like 5 years later they're going to release it again. I think that's just like marketing ploy.
So you
because that's like what companies do.
so you think that they're going to release more product if they
Oh no, no. Like I would prefer to say I don't think at all. Like right, like so that's like because I mean I've heard about the reserve lists and things like that, but I don't know. But I'm saying, wouldn't that be cool?
It would be cool.
That would be freaking awesome.
I just don't want to go out and buy Black Lotus tomorrow and then have it like drop to half the next week because they release a whatever version or set or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that would suck for the collector.
Yes.
Sure.
That's the point I'm getting at is, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like I gotta like gather my thought there.
Okay, all right, we'll come back to it.
Maybe that's really cool because like, and yeah, like because I mean I like the collectors. It's made our artwork go up, right? Like exponentially,
yes.
Which is pretty amazing. But it's also made a lot of that artwork unapproachable by anybody other than a collector.
Yes, that's true.
And so it gives an opportunity for other people to have them. Yes. So like maybe that's good, because like once that stops, right? Like then you have collections
again. And that's do you remember the collector's edition cards that came out? That had the gold border frame on the back.
Oh yeah.
That was an approach to release to the market this edition that people could no longer get, right? The unlimited or beta, and they had all the same cards, black bordered, but they had square corners and yellow gold on the back.
Yeah, but it wasn't the original ones.
Yeah,
like that's great. It just that all sounds crazy talking, really awesome. But like, if it was a true, or if it's a true thing, let's say that, it's an awesome marketing ploy, because it would just get people to like put out more money, for the possibility of getting like a Mox, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, like, or getting like an original Lotus. Like, what the hell? You would. That's a great way to like rack in some more cash, and also build up like, marketing information. So like, if all that's real, I have no clue if it is or not, but like, I could see that being a really good marketing ploy to bring people again, or better yet, to hold, because what we're dealing with, not only are these cards, but you're now in a place where you have more fiscal power, right? And so part of it plays on nostalgia,
right?
So it's a great marketing guy.
I mean, I could.
It's a great move.
If they made it all, and I can buy back the memories of childhood, so to speak, through this, pew pew, right? It would be right on target.
Yeah.
But they're doing that right now. They're producing so much product, I can't keep up. And
they really are. There's a lot of stuff coming out.
There's way too much, in my opinion. So the question is, would they want to reprint the original set, or do they rather want to make new versions and say, let's make a better Mox? Let's put a Mox out that, not only gives you a mana, but it'll give you 2 mana, or whatever it be this time.
Yeah, I think if it was me, right, like I would have hired to make new boxes. Like I would sit down and get like that original artist, go and do it again. But can't do what you did prior. But I think there is something really cool about having this history that because you can't really go back to it. You
That's true.
Run across it, but like to have the artist like re-envision what they're doing, and it might be
Yes.
like difficult for other artists, right? Like I don't know. You know, I mean, I paint a lot of City in the Bottle, right?
Right.
Or there's been a point where I painted a whole lot of plateaus for people.
Now, when you
Uh,
did that, and when you did it, were they the new versions or the same versions?
no, so like when I do them and I do them on altars or I do like commissions for people, right? They really like it, but like I charge a little extra for doing is trying to do exact odds
Okay.
or exact reproductions because I'd much rather um, I would much rather reimagine. I hate that word, but I'd rather rethink that piece because like if I think about like plateau, right? The perspective is awesome. That might not really be a plateau, but what a butte. It's not a butte because the butte's shorter, but you know, like there's things that are like
Okay.
technically off.
Yes.
And I hate to say that, but yeah, like so it's some of the paintings are more entertaining to refigure out again in a different light, or you know, because I've had different experiences since I was in my 20s, like
That's right.
30 years, right? Like,
Yep.
so there's different stories in my head and different things that I've seen that can like reinform what I did prior as opposed to doing what I already did.
Because you know
I
more
don't,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had no perspective now.
Yes.
Like that would have helped.
No. No, and that's great. I mean, that's a great thing. And so, you know, if someone was to come to you and they said, "Hey, Drew, I want you to redo Dan Dan," how would you do it?
Yeah, that's one like I've done you know, you probably search through and I've done like Dan Dan a couple of different times too. I did one like this really big one, but it's more like it's still like you know a hidden creature, but like they're more on top. It's a more of like almost like a Tom Sawyer-esque, or I did one for somebody that was going under the water up, so you know the reverse view, and that was
Oh,
kind of
right.
cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I would probably make that thing so much bigger, and
Okay.
maybe not like a beta fish, right? Like,
Okay.
uh, yeah.
I mean, it had the
But
size of the
like Dan
boats.
Dan, I think was like, yeah, no, it could have aged somebody like that was a big thing. Um, yeah, like I that's what I don't like retouching because I think it was really good as a painting. That like yeah, it was just a good painting. It like worked really successful. I loved the first print of it that was like bad. So it was like harder to see the fish, right? Like
Mm.
because apparently like I hear stories where like you know people were like oh I didn't see that fish for 5 years and you know it scared the crap out of me.
Really?
I love that.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
like
that's great.
awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Um, so yeah, like there's some of the paintings like I would hate to ever I hate to touch. So it's almost like I want to rethink it. But I think like Dan Dan really worked well as a picture. Um, though when I look at it now, I like my brain thinks about Jaws. I wasn't thinking about Jaws when I painted it, but like you know, like there's Jaws. There's I think that sort of image, especially now, I see it more like there was Ron Howard's Moby Dick movie, right? One of the movie posters is essentially Dan Dan, but like you know, the whale's bigger, of course, and the boat, of course, is I forgot Ishmael's
It's like
boat.
a fishing
Yeah,
boat, I think, right?
yeah. It was a
Yeah.
much larger whaling boat, right? But
Yes.
like yeah, like that, you see that sort of setup, sort of be interesting to try to rethink that out because yeah, like that idea of things in the dark and in the deep are like always there anyhow. So
And
I
you know
don't know if
that
it's a
reminds me
too.
that reminds me of the 90s because the 90s had the X-Files. It had Erie, Indiana series. It had all of these spooky, mysterious
Yeah.
thoughts and implementations of every visual uh, movie, card game, everything you could imagine was coming right in the early 90s out.
Yeah. It was, yeah, a lot of that was, there was like a Millennium. I loved that one. That was great. And then when the Millennium hit, like the show was over and done because like none of that like awesomeness happened.
Yep. Yeah, no,
Yeah, but like, yeah, all that stuff was like going on, but like, oh, and okay, so like here's a weird parallel for you. We were talking about the artwork and the artwork shifting and changing. Because in the 90s, you have a gritty, almost a rusty, things are decaying, you've got grunge going. And then soon as the 2000s hit, everything went shiny and glossy and smooth. It's just this big circle of like, and within like, within storytelling, within movies, it went that way, kind of with games, with the artwork that we're seeing and how we were being advertised to, like all of that like shifted at that point. And then, it's starting to go back again to like having more emotional resonance to people, and the colors are shifting out again. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I think I just thought it was really interesting for a second. Yeah, because in the 90s you have like the X-Files and you have all that stuff.
And you had all. Would you say that impacted any of your artwork? Did you?
Oh, hugely. I was so lucky because like rust is my favorite color, or at least back then. Like I like those really earthy tones. So I'm sure it had some effect on my artwork. And it also like, yeah, yes, I would say yes, it did.
So how would you do this rust? Is that a special process? I mean, how would you
No,
come
no, it's,
about that?
you have like, think about it this way, like, so like I kind of think, or at least for myself, let's say, like as a painter, you gravitate towards colors. You gravitate towards colors in your life, right? You wear specific colors. You put them on. You get your car a specific color. You might not think about it, but like we all have like these weird color sets that we gravitate to. I like really earthy colors. I like the green and mosses, and like in the reds that come in those decaying like forms. But I spent a lot of time in like the woods when I was a little kid, and so I think some of that is like those colors, from that time in my head. So I think it's just what we gravitate towards, but I gravitated towards like really earthy and like.
And that shows in your art, the Clockwork Beast.
Yeah.
That shows really well. And I know the card, People of the Woods, because
Yeah.
you mentioned that. That was a very unique art piece because you were in the green scene. A
Yes.
lot of your cards are not in the green.
No, they're not. And I like greens. I mean, like, but yeah, it's that whole woods thing again. Yeah, I really like that painting. I'd probably even do that one slightly different again. But
well, since we're on the topic, I got one of the group members. He had a question he wanted to ask, and I'm just going to throw it out there. It's related to what we're just talking about with your artistic styles. So Sean is asking me to ask you to talk about your artistic practice, which you have been doing, but
yeah.
also about how you maintains it and how you nourish it. What is your process like for creating new work? Sean asks.
Oh, so I've been talking to my kid a lot about this too lately, which is just weird. But when I do illustration as opposed to when I do personal work, right? Um, they parallel, but they're kind of different because like when I'm doing like an illustrative piece that has like a solid narrative. You know, you're getting like an email. You've got like the spec. You've got like, you know, this is what it needs to do. They know kind of how you work, and so, you know, I'll sit there and I'll think about like whatever the writing is, and I'll begin with like lots of sketches. And you know, sometimes I'll take sketches and lay them into sketches to build up. If like there was a good idea over here, but like it was failing, and till you hone down a nice rough or drawing form, right? Um, but there's a very specific goal in mind when it's illustration, because yeah, you've got a client that has specific wishes for this piece of art or this piece of work. When I do like my own stuff, um, and like I paint every day. Is pretty much what happens. I paint and I draw like every day. I'll do it during the daytime. I'll do it in the evening. Probably like when it gets like later, I'll be painting and drawing. Before we were talking, I was working on some stuff. Because you know that's kind of what I like to do. But like the way I put stuff together is kind of like an illustration, but it's really separated down, because what I'm thinking of is like sometimes it's more about like practicing a technique, or I want to paint a whole bunch of like rocks floating. I want to do a series of rocks floating like clouds, because I think rocks are really difficult. So we're like, oh, I need to practice rocks, right? But so like I might put start out with an image like I have like this thing here. Okay, like this painting, and I like just put it up like earlier. Like there's this one.
Nice.
The whole reason for any of it is I wanted to try to. I have this. It's like a gilder's paste that you can rub. It's not actual gilding, but you know, it's made out of metallics and stuff. And I was like, I want to try to like make clouds out of like this stupid building plate. And that was the whole point of the picture. Like, I just wanted to paint those clouds. And then I had a board that had like a swoop on it and this like kind of like a character. I was like, oh yeah, that kind of reminds me of like the Stellar Jays in my yard. So I'm like, okay, I'll put that there. And so like when I'm working on my own stuff, it's really, I'm just putting pieces together and trying to make a picture to see where the picture wants to go. I'm just taking it for a walk, and it might just be about like a technique, or I want to like experiment with just reds, and then I see where it's going. So it's almost, it doesn't have like when you're doing illustration, you have a very specific place you've got to go, right? And like so when I'm painting my own stuff, I try to, I mean, the specific place that I want to go is usually I want to paint clouds with metal paste. I mean, that's just like, and then later on, I like make some sort of lie up about like why it happened. But really, it's like, it might be practicing a technique or trying to smooth something out, or like, you know, how can I paint like an oil that like feels like a watercolor, or a watercolor that feels like an oil at the same time. And so my own stuff is almost like studies. It's really weird to say that out loud, but yeah. I mean that painting, and I love that little painting there, but yeah, it was just because I wanted to paint clouds with gold paste, because I want to do another painting with gold paste clouds. So it was like almost like a practice for a different thing to practice on. I want to do a painting of, because yeah, like I want to develop a series of images for like cover work, and this more graphic style works for me better than being like, I'm not a realist. I'm not a realist painter. I can squeak out a moment or two, but it's not me. You know, but like that's spotted. So I'm trying to figure out how to like balance stuff and get it. And so yeah, like usually they're just for that when it's my own stuff. Well, like yeah, illustration has like a straight up point to it. And that's the thing that you got to hit first off. And then, you know, like I try to leave room in my roughs where I can let like the paint do things and I can explore within that, but you have to have like this very solid, this is where I'm going. Because it's a hard work, right? Does that makes sense? So,
It sounds like a journey, and it
yeah,
sounds like you need to know where the journey is going to end, but how you're going to go through
yeah,
it is the mystery of it.
yeah. For personal stuff, like yeah, the mystery is always that's a lot of fun because yeah, it is just like it's just you're wandering around in paint. But like yeah, illustration, I try to leave a little bit of wandering, but yeah, there's a point to like I have to go here. Yeah, and like so I'm gonna try to find something else.
Yeah, Zoom hasn't cut us off yet, so please,
Yeah.
what else do you have in your shareables there in your bag
Oh,
of
so like
tricks?
this one, see if that shows.
Nice. What is
Yeah,
this?
yeah, this was done for Onyx Path. You know, so but like all that playing on like personal stuff allows me to like um I mean I still play when I'm painting, but like illustration work, but it allows me not to have to experiment, right? Like this one I had just done for like Renegade Games, like Vampire, uh, you know, and but yeah, like they wanted, you know, they wanted the
That
character, they
looks
wanted
great.
what
Yeah.
their ears. So like there's this very specific vibe that they're driving for. Um, but yeah, I guess most of it I'm trying to play on my own time. I'm trying to play on my own time. So right, like so
Right.
you're not. So like yeah, this is more like Onyx Path stuff. Um,
And what is this? That Diana's Path is, what is this?
Onyx Path is like it's not a subsidiary, but they're doing World of Darkness
Okay.
stuff like White Wolf's old stuff.
So
But
what is
like
that? A card game? A board game? What is it?
it's a RPG.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
An RPG, like a
yeah.
world.
So
I
like
got you.
yeah, like Wraith and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Um,
They have that
oh,
in
I
Magic.
think this might have been for Wraith, in fact.
Yeah. I mean, this is partly, like the Theros block with Magic. We have
Yeah, yeah,
this Greek mythology that looks like the ferryman, and then you got some sort of a Spartan warrior or something.
yeah.
That time frame.
I should have wrote exactly what it was like. It's killing me that I didn't write down what it was like, which game it was for. That first black and white one, like this one, I think it was for Changeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
For Changeling. What is that?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the card or?
No. World of Darkness.
World of Darkness again. Okay.
Yeah. So this is more stuff that like I'm happy to be able to like show these. So like some of the stuff that I've been working on is still under NDA, and this got like recently released, so it's kind of okay.
Okay.
Well, it's not kind of okay; it is okay. But yeah, this was for Renegade Games again. I think it's Reckoning, but like it's a re-release of the Vampire game.
Okay.
So it's for card game.
Awesome.
Like there's this one. Like for these, I get a lot of fortune. I like this one. I probably threw that like too quick. Sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty. That reminds me of drinking a Capri Sun, whereas he's drinking his. His
yeah, right.
Right.
Like this was done for like an old school group.
Nice. And what are we seeing there?
Oh, it's a Clockwork Beast, right? Like so, this was
Clockwork Beast is back.
One of the old school groups in Southern California.
Okay.
They're not part of Southern about like metal, but yeah, this was the dummy. or I was just trying to work out this in the actual painting I gave them, but this is the one of them. So, but
Man, we need to get. Yeah, well, what do we need to do to get you to make us a painting too?
Pretty much just like shoot you an email.
Okay, we're shooting you too.
That's the trick, right? Like you just got like send me a message.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fairly overly easygoing about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like always, there's funds to be paid, that sort of stuff.
Sure. We'll figure that part out.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff. Let me see what else I got that's any good. I don't know if you want like old cards.
Hey, bring it all. Bring whatever you got. Bring it out. People want to see it if you have something to share. There you go.
Still, like I still have Merc Dwellers.
Merc Dwellers.
Yeah.
I looked, you know what? Back in the 90s, I remember looking through all my cards from 4th edition because that was the reprint from the Dark. And I was very mystified by those images because I cannot and could not clearly define who those characters are or were. And the mysticism in that always kept me curious because I didn't know what they were. I'm like, why is this a female? Like, where is this? Is this on Venus? Like, I don't know.
Oh, okay. So when I got Merc Dwellers, right, what they told me was Merc Dwellers. That was the whole art direction for it. So, and like I had my response is the same as yours. Like, what the hell's a Merc Dweller?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know. And so, like, I was thinking, like, yeah, like if I was coming across somebody and was coming across some Merc Dwellers, what is it? Like,
what is it?
Swamp? Is it like, and so, yeah. So yeah, half of that painting is probably my own, like not knowing what the heck a Merc Dweller is. But I figured it'd be like the indigenous people that like the ceremonies where they paint with mud on themselves and carve out designs, and so that's kind of what I was thinking there. But yeah, like oh, I don't have it with me. I just lost the
cave people.
Not cave people, but that's a great one. It's two guys fighting each other. It starts with an N and an E. I want to say Nephrite, but that's not the right name. Shit. Sorry.
No, I got to think. You got me thinking.
I know, like
two guys fighting.
What's the name of the card that I painted? I just lost it. That's so horrible.
So it's not holy. It wasn't Holy Light. It was
Holy Light was the one with the guy's blood.
Yes.
And that one, there's a specific point to that whole painting too, and I could talk to that one easily. So like Holy Light, because like that's another one. They, Jesper called me up. Here's a list. Oh, Holy Light sounds cool. So my upbringing was like a heavy religious upbringing. I was like a heavy Southern Baptist upbringing, right? So there's that mythology or that religion, however you want to, like, not to offend anybody or like whatever, but those stories in the back of my head, like I was trying to like what Holy Light, how do you show it? What is that? And what my brain kept on telling me or thinking, and I'm still like I still think it's kind of solid, is that like when this light hits, like this idea that the light of God strips you bare, right? And you see everything. If there's like any armor, anything you're covering yourself up with or hiding behind is like laid to waste, and it's just this and this.
Right.
So that's kind of that thought is what I was having.
Yeah.
Holy Light.
Right.
Yeah.
So what about Dust to Dust? Let me just get that's the word here. But you were saying Dust to Dust. Also has a similar, like a clergy figure in it, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking of I was thinking of old, you know, of coming
I
across like old,
I have
old
a list of your
architecture.
cards. I'm sorry, the Repentant
Oh no, you're
Blacksmith,
all right.
Goblin Caves, Exorcist. Oh,
Yeah,
Necrite. Yes, Necrite is the one where
that's
they're
right. It's the one I'm
one
thinking
is
of. Yeah,
being
like
choked out
a
almost.
resistant thing, right? Like, yeah. Nephrites at that point didn't like really exist very much. You know, because it's once again, it's like one of those early '90s paintings. But yeah, like, and I can't remember the whole as much as they gave me, but I knew that it was supposed to be depicting a struggle, or at least that's what I can remember now. Um, and a lot of like, you know, a lot of what I was doing was trying to get the viewer to tie in as well. And so, you know, I was thinking these like spooky human-esque like creatures, and then, you know, somebody in the background watching was like the whole setup for that painting. You know, not nearly as solid as like Holy Light, right? But the idea of like dust to dust coming across like an old temple, and you know, all that history and everything is just like laid on top of like, you know, whatever stone sculptures are left, or whatever broken bits, you know. So that was like dust to dust in my head. And like, you know, the one that goes with it is ashes to ashes, of course,
Right?
and that's like, that's pretty like, you know, like that's kind of easy. Things that burn, right? Yeah. Um, I think probably like if I was to do that more, I'd localize it a little different than what it is. It probably, I mean, I like the original, that there's not like somebody that caused that. You have to put that together, because like a lot of those in my head were, you're trying to get the feeling of like, you know, the spell that you cast out. As opposed to being looking at somebody else that cast the spell, it's you. You know, so a lot of the stuff was like trying to make it as like you're the viewer.
Yes.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you did a great job.
I
So,
think
what's
I think that's solid.
how big were you doing these on? Are they on canvases? Are they on wood boards? What would you paint on, and how big? Did I cut out?
Yeah, yeah. What were you saying? What size?
Yeah, what size were the paintings that you do or did, and what would you paint on, like
Oh,
wood
so,
board, canvas?
yeah. So those are like usually like the original ones, like the early, like the early pre '90s and things, right? Like this is like 5 3/4 by 7. Um, and it's on watercolor paper, so it's like on a 300-pound watercolor paper
So
of
the one
about
you're holding there, that's the original.
yeah. That's
That's
the
okay.
original.
So you did watercolor
So
on
yeah,
water
it's
paper. Okay.
yeah. Um, and we were doing them that size, these little things, and like the paintings now are a lot bigger, right? Like when you're looking. But we did them, all of them in that size, because they had to fit on their scanner. And they had
Right.
like, you know, like they were in the basement, and they had a scanner that was this big, and it was the '90s, and scanners were new, right? Like, so
Right.
like, yeah, we had to feed it onto something tiny. So like if you had to mail it in, and a lot of the stuff was mailed in, you had to be able to get it into a FedEx box, right? And then it
Wow.
still had to be able to lay down on their little 8.5 by 11 scanner. So
Wow.
they're all tiny pieces, as opposed to the paintings now that are a lot bigger. You know, they've got like better photography, or you know, we have photographers now, and they're like, you know, scanner capabilities. All the capabilities are different now.
Now,
But yeah, like very specific.
did that limit your creative abilities back then versus your uh, bigger size
I
approach
don't
you can
think
do
so.
today?
I don't think so. I mean, like part of the reason to do them really bigger, right? Like, and this is just an interesting thing to think about. Like, the bigger the painting is, I mean, given like the end result's like an inch, right? Like it's this wee thing. So you're taking all this information on a much larger painting. Let's say it's like 18 by 24 or something. And you're compressing it all down and it just super tightens out. And you get like all this super crazy focus. And being also you're working bigger, you can put more information into the painting that gets all put down. But like, I mean, I didn't know if it was like hampering anything back then. I had no knowledge. Like, really, like that's pretty much bigger, and you're still trying to think. I mean, the end result is you're thinking that it has to be reproduced.
Okay.
So small, and within that is like that. Knowing how it's going to end up is like part of the thought that you have to have,
Wow.
like shapes and contrasts and possibly that's why I let some of the information fall away.
Okay.
But it also goes into how I feel about showing space or like focal points.
Sure.
Because I would say like, and even for like my work I do now is the focal point of the picture will have more information, right? And as you go away, it breaks away. When you have like all this crammed tight information, and I'm like really thinking of like, sometimes you see this in like highly realistic like sports, like wildlife illustration and stuff, where like everything's so super freaking crisp, like every leaf, every cloud, every dust, everything in the thing, and so like there's no really one set important, and you can't focus. Where like if you think about how you look at the world, like through your eyeballs, you're in focus because I'm looking at you. And everything else starts falling away. And so like, and they fall into shapes. And that's why like, eventually, I'm just using like a graphic shape for like a door maybe. Because it's important that the shape is there, but it's not the thing that's going to come and get me. So like, who cares? Or if it is something that's going to come and get me, at least the shape can kind of like be morphed into something familiar that your brain will tie to. So like, even when I'm working bigger now, I kind of try to keep that in mind, that like, even though I have all this room to play, which area of the image is more important or not. Like, is that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it just like sets up an order, like importance.
Gotcha. Right. So you're already creatively thinking out the perception of the image in terms of the focus points, the contrasting, and how it's supposed to come out in your best opinion. And
Yeah,
and that's fabulous. I mean, that's just marvelous. I mean, that is a true characteristics of the mind of the artist. So you've shown us that now. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I wouldn't have thought about it until you brought it up, and I'm pretty sure
well,
that people.
you don't like what you don't have to, right? Like, you don't have to think about like that, like necessarily, unless you're making stuff like, unless you sit and like paint on your own, like you don't question how you put together
That's right.
an image, like
Of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I that sounded flippant too.
No, but I remember from my art and painting classes that I've taken in college that we were looking at shade, contrast, lines to the focus point, everything. Like, you have to take a lot of things into effect and account when you're creating these images.
Yeah, there's things going on.
Yeah. And then of course, then if you want to put symbolism in, is the shape of the window going to have the cross in the middle? Is there going to be the Christian feeling in this building, or are they just going to be hollow windows? And I totally get it. So when you're saying these things, it resonates with me.
Yeah, even like I always think color's cool, because color's like, you could, if we paint all like, grass is green, right? Like
Right.
in the moment you change the color, if you make the color like a blue, the grass means something totally different.
Yes.
So like even color can like shift, like symbolically what you want the viewer to be feeling or thinking. It's
Exactly. The interpretation, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
but it still falls under like the rules of like how light works.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like all of that is like a weird understanding of like how you see or how people see and things like that.
And from back when you were in your 20s, when you did
Yeah,
these art impressions for Magic,
yeah,
to where you are today now, I saw the glimpse of like this little bird image you had on a
yeah,
little
yeah, yeah. Oh,
uh, board there, and if you take that out, how is your interpretation? No, there was another one. It looked like a
oh,
bird. It
there
was
was
like
another.
yellow. You know which one?
Oh wait, did I
You
like?
showed it to me in the beginning.
Was it
Yes,
that one?
that one. Yes.
Oh yeah.
And so when we're looking at this, and we didn't look at it before, I mean, wow, you know, yours look. This is a bird, birdman something that's setting fire to a
Yeah,
birdhouse, and I can't tell if that's in a
yeah.
field or if that's just all flames because he's got a
Oh,
match in his hand.
yeah, yeah. He's got a match in his hand. I think it's. I think I called it something like Carl's not invited to parties anymore.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
it just total nonsense. But yeah, he's got a match in his hand, and there's a birdhouse, and like the fields are possibly on fire, or it's just like fields. It's leaves enough in there blankness, I think, for you to like try to put some, because all that's really important is just torching this house, right?
right. But
Um,
you have a tremendous amount of fabulous detail to the head of this character.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
But
it's
because he's the main thing, right? Like,
right, right. But his body is faded, whereas the whatever you call that, the feathersome look, it looks like a golden mane almost.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and
Sorry.
what did you have in? So when we're looking back at your original art, we're looking at this like more blurry images, like Merc dwellers or you know, cave people, whatever. Versus this, I mean, you've this is a whole nother level of you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like this is like much. This is maybe like 2 or 3 years, like a painting from just a little while ago. Not, it's not the most recent, but it's a really recent painting, or like it'll give you an idea at least where I'm going, right? With painting wise, but yeah, like even this painting, how this one started was by in my garage. I had like some comic books laid out one evening. I came in the garage, and I saw the comic upside down, and the light wasn't on very well, and so there was specific shapes. So I was like, dude, that looks like a bird. So
Wow,
I was like, okay, I'm gonna make that shape.
nice.
And then so it like came out like complete, like just like goofing around. And yeah, somewhere in there, I thought it'd be funny if it was lighting a birdhouse on fire, because that's funny to me. So yeah, it has no real point to it except like, hopefully a story for later on.
Right.
So I mean, its origins aren't that great. I mean, like the other side to that painting was what color? I gotta look at it really quick. There's like, I was using like phthalo blue and like I think like a cadmium yellow and yellow ochre. And so I wanted to really limit it and see how far I could push those colors. That's really what was going on.
No, I mean that came out great.
Yeah, and I had a bird head that I thought was cool. Uh, so it had like so little point except like how far I could push a color to like, if the color goes more transparent, how that changes tone and moves space.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like this is one of those. It's just like me playing around,
Okay.
just to experiment and figure out things.
But
which
you have, I would say, based on this image, you have upped the game on your artistic interpretations and capabilities of conveying the image
yeah,
and the
no,
level
thank
of
you.
detail in the character. I mean,
Yeah, no, like, but like after after 30 years, I got a little better. Uh,
I'm
I
not saying you
like I
ever.
said,
I'm
like
not
it
saying
really
you ever
stepped
were
up.
bad. I'm saying that
No, no.
you've always been good.
No, I agree with you. However, I would say like I didn't know what I was doing back then at all. I had no clue. I like Dan was a really good painting. Vertigo was a really good, like a solid, like here's a solid watercolor. Technically, it's really spot on as a painting. And some of the other ones not as spot on. I think, and then like my skill level at that point was not what it is today, or let alone like some of the newer kids coming out. Like they're coming out with some like just mad skill, and it's beautiful to see. But yeah, I think that is directly related to the education and the things that we're seeing now. Because like I'm still like being run in the beginning by like more abstract, more like I'm going to paint a green triangle sort of
Okay,
time period in art. We're like, yeah, because like art for art's sake is huge.
gotcha.
uh, and then now realism is starting to come back in, especially with the computer, and then like the painters, like that skill level stayed stayed for like illustration and altair schools and stuff like that, and that's starting to come back out again. Yeah, so somewhere in there's some sort of like blend, I don't know, but yeah, like 30 years there. I hope to God that there's some improvement. um
Would you say you've to refine your skill set? Would you say that's something that naturally grew with you over time, or did you actually continue studying these various art styles you've been mentioning?
I think the yes, yes, and yes. Um, they grow if you like by continual practice, right? And continual painting and drawing. You start getting a better understanding. You just get better at them through repetition, right? But like I taught art, like studio art, for like 13 years. So like that moment made me go, what am I missing? Like what knowledge am I missing? And yeah, like, and what do I want, and what do I want from other people? And like, so like I had to ask myself questions about like what I was doing, or why I made like visual decisions that I made. So like I think teaching helped me get better.
Hmm.
Like not only did I get to like practice every day with my students,
Gotcha.
it's always you're doing
Right.
still lifes on top of still lifes. But then you're trying to understand why you're doing, because you've got to relay that to somebody else in a way that's not like you got to do it this way. Because I was always here are the methods that I use. Here are like other people's methods, and then because I was brought up with the idea that like there's like seven different ways to skin a cat, and I can think about like two or three off the top of my head. So there's never really one right way, but there's all these different paths to getting there. Um, but yeah, I think teaching like helped me figure out like my weak spots, and yeah, I just think even now, like it's a lot of it is questioning yourself, like what works, what didn't work, what should you have done, and like try it out, and that's why like in those more personal pieces, like I might set up with the goal of I want to play with this medium, or I want to figure out like the warm and cool fluctuations or changes in a cloud. Um, I mean, that's why you still set up that, but I let it kind of run to like as a painting to please itself. Um, because yeah, like all of that is that experiment to go into like an illustration one.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'll use like that bird in the birdhouse. One of the side projects, like a personal project I'm working on, is called Tall Tales and Bedtime Stories. Because I think it's well, my grandfather, my father used to tell me all sorts of like outrageous tales when I was a little kid. So some of the paintings become about that. And then I leave a lot of when I'm making my own paintings, you know, they're telling stories, but there's all these gaps that somebody can go into. So sometimes I later on write a story for it, or I've had other people write, and I'm kind of collecting a weird book together for that. You know, to kind of showcase other stuff I'm doing, but I don't know where that was going. I'm so sorry.
Hey, I think we're getting to understand a lot about you, how you interpret, how you improve yourself, and I can totally relate with the whole teacher experience, because from my own experience, when you do teach, you're constantly breaking concepts apart and rebuilding them on a daily basis. And
Yeah,
when you do that enough times, you get to see a gamut of angles. You get 360 degrees, full view from all the approaches you've done. Because every time you break it down, you see a little bit more. And when you build it
yeah,
back up again, you're not only mastering it, but you're improving your skill set. So that's what
yeah,
I get from it.
yeah. I think teaching was probably one of the best things I could have ever done. Um, but I'm not teaching anymore. But like, it really did allow me to like figure out like you know whys and like what I'm missing. Because it would suck to like oh okay for like there was a couple of years I taught ceramics, right. I have no business teaching ceramics really. I'm a painter, like that wasn't my thing, but you know like but I had to learn how to do it all the same because it would be like really sucky to like teach you know all sorts of you know it's like I couldn't teach how to mix a glaze, you know, so I'd stay away from how to mix a glaze. But yeah, but you still have to like try to gather this like to be fair, right? Um, well, when I taught ceramics, I also didn't go like I'm a ceramist because it sure as heck wasn't, and that wouldn't be fair to pretend that I was. But you know, so like I feel bad for those kids actually. But
Well, I'm sure
I
they're
had a lot.
happy.
I
I'm
had a
sure
lot.
they're happy they had you. I'm sure they learned a lot from you.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it was like when it was ceramics. At least I don't know if it was they learned a lot about ceramics. Uh, no, I think my painting and design students got more out of me than
Okay.
the
Well,
clay guy.
I'm sure they all learned something, whatever it is. They took what they could from you.
Yeah, that's the
Um, and you know, it's great to see that you're still doing the art. One of my saddest moments for the I would say the art community of Magic would be when we see artists who not only no longer are amongst us, but also who stop the industry, you know, being a part of the industry and the community. So
yeah. No, it's like really sad because this is like an awesome community. Um, yeah, I mean, as it is, I owe so much to Magic. And then like you know, to like you guys in general. I mean, like yeah, it's always been amazing to me. I can't. Yeah, I feel really honored to like to be a part of it because yeah, like it's so much bigger than I ever thought it would have been. Like in the beginning, I had no clue,
well,
and yeah, but so
thanks
many
to your
people.
contributions and you working with Jesper and saying yes to all of
Uh,
his requests. and coming through. We thank you from the Magic community. I'm the only thing I'm worried about is how long more Zoom is going to allow me to be on the recording. We've done a great job so far.
Yeah.
They haven't kicked us out yet. However, I think what I want to end with, we know that you're still in it for the art, and so we're able to reach you if we want any artwork done, commissions, alters. How do we find you?
My email is Drewtuckerillustration at Gmail. It's like the longest email ever. So yeah, Drewtuckerillustration at gmail.com, and then I'm on Facebook, and then I'm also on Instagram. So like yeah, Messenger, email. Those are the best ways. Usually like that's where I'm putting stuff up as well.
Awesome. And for the members in our group, Pendelhaven, you're in it, so we can hit you up directly. Yeah. But so on Instagram, what do they look for on Instagram?
Drew Tucker Artist. And I
Drew
think
Tucker Artist? Okay.
On Facebook. Yeah.
Awesome.
And as far as the website goes, right? Like we were talking about this earlier, I totally need help to build the new website because mine's janky beyond belief, especially the shop page. So if anybody's like built websites and feels like taking on a problem, holler at me. Because yeah, I need to like I hate writing the email that like, oh yeah, I need to fix that shop page. You're right. Because as you said, like it died.
Yeah, it crashed on me because I was like, I went in on it and I was like, it was several times, and I was like, I know this wasn't my connection, and you mentioned to me in a message that you needed help with the page. I'm like, okay, guys, you heard it from Drew. He needs help. If you're able to help him, reach out to him. He's been a great resource for us. I hope you guys can be a great resource to him just the same. And if you're able to help him, please reach out to him and shoot him a message. So, Drew, I think we have covered a lot of great information tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to share this. It's gonna go on the internet, so people can look back, draw from this interview you and I had on your great gems of wisdom, a time that's gone back, how you are as an artist, and whatever else you guys gathered from this. So
and yeah, if there's like if anybody has any side questions or thoughts and want to know something, feel free to like shoot me an email or shoot me like a messenger or whatever. I'm always happy to like talk. It's always good to share.
You're awesome.
So, if there's other things, feel free to like holler at me.
And Drew, you've been very approachable. Every time I sent you a message, you always responded. So I know you guys out there, if you want to contact Drew, he is just within a messages reach. So, and then so you are available for alters and commissions, right, Drew?
Oh yeah. I'm available alters, commissions, sketch cards. I have artist proofs as well. A couple of running lists, things like that.
Okay, and we can check those out on both your website that you're revamping and this Instagram page.
Yeah. And if you want, I can send them as well. Maybe like this. I can send them to you, like you can like put them with the interview or whatever.
Absolutely, just send it over. I'll attach it. So, Drew, again, thank you very much for taking this time to share with us, and we hope to see you again in the future, or maybe for another interview if you have some new pieces coming out or something else that's new in the pipeline.
Yeah, always happy to. Just like just holler at me.
Awesome.
Yeah, more than happy.
Awesome, Drew, you've been great. You've been fantastic, and again, if you want to share anything, you know how to get it out as well. The old school community is pretty approachable. And
oh yeah, no, the old school community is the best one.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we hope to sit down and have a game or two with you if you're still into it. And,
yeah. In fact, it was old school community that taught me how to play.
There you go. Look at that. Yeah, and you just you met some of your fellow artists just a couple years ago that you hadn't
Yeah,
seen or never met, and
yeah. I think
we're
it's
happy
really,
to bring you out again. So
yeah. No, it's
yeah,
nice. It's nice.
great, great. Drew, well, thanks again. You have a wonderful evening. I know the fires are over on the West Coast, so stay safe and stay in touch. And again, thanks for being part of our community.
Oh no, thank you, Mason.
Okay.
It's all good.
All right. Drew,
All right.
thank you much. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Thank you.
You
Bye
too.
bye.